Hi students and family members, it's Mr. Panza getting you set for your science district test, helping you understand ecosystems. In this video and one more video, we will be trying to go over all the answers of the packet we've gone over here in school to help you study for the district test coming up. The first packet we had was the Understanding Ecosystems packet. It was Chapter 5. The big idea, ecosystems made up of both living and non-living parts, and they all impact or influence one another. Here are the three main questions. In the following pages, you'll see the answers or the key. If you have a star next to one of the questions, that's a question I would look over very carefully. It will most likely pop up again on your district test. Lesson 1. What are the parts of an ecosystem? An environment and ecosystem are all the living and non-living things that impact or affect an organism. An ecosystem is a community and its physical environment that come together, and the two parts of an ecosystem are the living things and the non-living things. Getting more specific, we talk about individuals, populations, and communities. One plant or animal is an individual. A population are all of those individuals that are of the same kind of living thing in an ecosystem or environment. An example of a population would be a hive of bees or a group of blueberry bushes. The difference between an individual and a population is an individual is one plant or animal, and a population is a group of plants or animals, which makes up more than one of those plants or animals. Moving on to page 3. Where we discuss communities. Communities are all of the populations of organisms living together in an environment. The Everglades, notice the star, it's like all communities because the plants and animals there depend on or rely on one another. The 4 different populations that may be found in a forest could be blue jays, ants, raccoons, moose, many kinds of different birds. Notice that I've listed more than 4 just to give you more than just a couple. Lesson 2 was what factors influence ecosystems. The factors we're discussing are biotic and abiotic. Biotic are of the living parts of an ecosystem. You can look at the base word bio, which means life. Listing 2 biotic factors, which again these have stars next to them, are plants that provide nourishment or animals eating plants to nourish the plants. An example of how plants and animals help each other. Animals eat plants, giving them energy, helping the animal, plant helping the animal. Animals keeping the population of the plants under control when they eat those animals. Animal droppings also act as a fertilizer which help plants grow. These are ways that plants and animals help each other in an ecosystem. Non-living things also impact ecosystems in a big way. Abiotic, with the prefix a, means non-living parts of an ecosystem. You'll have to know the difference, and you'll also have to be able to give some examples. Non-living parts of an ecosystem include sunlight, air, water, and soil. 2 abiotic factors are soil and water. The way soil is factoring in as an important part to ecosystem survival is the fact that it helps plants grow. If plants didn't grow, it would impact all other living things. Water is another abiotic factor that impacts ecosystems. Without water, plants and animals would die because water is a basic need of all living things. All living things need water and they need food. Climate is another non-living factor that impacts ecosystems. Climate is the amount of rainfall, sunlight, and temperature that we get in an area. What might happen to an ecosystem if the climate changed? It would impact all the living things of an ecosystem and would put them at risk. Diversity is the measure or number and variety of species of an ecosystem. A star next to the rainforest because we studied the rainforest being the ecosystem that provides many sources of food and shelter, of which it is why the most diverse of all the ecosystems. The exact opposite is the tundra. Because it's so bitter and cold, it does not support a lot of diversity. We live in the deciduous forest, which supports 4 separate seasons. Humans also impact ecosystems. Natural resources are parts of ecosystems humans use, including air. Some natural resources, like air, water, and sunlight, are renewable. More than 40% of all the medicines used today originally came from plants. And because we can replant those plants, they are considered renewable. However, we also, as humans, have negative and possible opportunities to make positive changes to ecosystems. A negative would be pollution. That's waste products that damage an ecosystem that we're billowing into the air or into the water. Much of the air pollution that humans are causing today come from gasoline, specifically from burning the gasoline. One way that we can positively change that is called habitat restoration, returning a natural environment to its original condition. However, once you've begun to damage it, it can be difficult to do that. 2 ways humans can impact an ecosystem in a positive way: planting trees or gardens, reusing materials or recycling, using different forms of transportation. When we plant trees, that goes back to what we were discussing above. Those plants make up 40% of the medicines we use today. And because we're planting it, we're making it a renewable resource that we can then use over and over again. 2 things we can do to prevent air pollution. Well, the big air pollution cause is the fact that we are burning gasoline. So use different types of transportation. Take a bike to work or school. Use a carpool or public transportation. Turning lights off can also help because then the light is not burning when you leave the room. 2 things you can do to save water. Don't use excessive water. So when you're brushing your teeth, when you're brushing, shut the water off. And don't pollute the water. Don't pour things into the water that would then pollute it. This one can go either way, builders and developers being more careful about protecting the ecosystems. Sometimes they're more careful because local communities have passed laws to make sure that they're more careful. Others believe that they've been less careful because they just continually bust down the different communities that are built. So that's the first packet, Understanding Ecosystems. Check out the other videos so that we can understand how energy is transferred in ecosystems so you can do fantastic on your district test.